because today, rather than go flying off into prajna, wisdom, I decided I didn't feel ready to go into the wisdom chapter. I thought it would be good for us to spend at least a solid week in the meditation chapter. And so we're going to stay there again today and talk about then our direct experience at the end of what it feels like for this deep concentration practice. And I talked about it very briefly last Tuesday because for me, DHYANA, PARAMITA, which is the one we were investigating briefly last week, DHYANA, 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 PARAMITA, is not just meditation, but it could easily mean simply meditation in a most general form. But for me, DHYANA, PARAMITA, because of the PARAMITA, because of the beyond meditation, because of the beyond moment to moment mindful, every day is really what I mean, mindfulness. DHYANA PARAMITA for me has always invited the deepened practice of concentration or absorption practice. And I wish Neil were here because Neil has been very interested and committed to the jhana studies. And I hope is going to get to work with Lee Brassington, who I have worked with regarding the jhana trainings. So jhana, J-H-A-N-A, I think, I'm not sure, but I think that word is the word from which DHYANA actually comes. And it simply means absorbed, concentrated, one-pointed, focused, clear presence, that kind of practice. And we're going to do that practice a little bit today. There are actually 9 or 10, depending on the school, different mind states in the jhana trainings. We're just going to play with the first 4 of them and see how we do. But I want you to see some of their effect. And the Buddha in his training spent much time in jhana practice, although at the end abandoned it. At the end said, though it will take you along the way, along the path, in the end, it itself, again, was not sufficient to clear seeing, that you needed other factors, other faculties, not just concentration and absorption. But he did say also consistently, and I have found this to be true in my experience, particularly during retreat time, that a continuous single-pointed focus invokes, invites, and facilitates these clear-seeing realms that are both joyful and also help us sustain practice. And as we remember from our joyful endeavor practice, the joy of the practice really becomes fairly available in the jhana trainings, which I love for people. Instead of getting sort of worn out, bored, the jhana trainings take us into a more energized, rapturous, joyful place. And I thought we'd play with it a bit. I think we've probably got most of our folks online now. Yep, looks right to me. That's about it. So why don't we prepare for sitting? And in the jhana trainings, for those of us, we have a whole community here who has practiced in the jhana trainings for quite a while. Actually, we stayed with it, I'm going to say certainly many, many months, if not longer. But one of the things that's most valuable in jhana training is actually a very upright but relaxed posture. So you need some supports at times in jhana training. So if you feel like you don't have enough back support back there, and actually I'm noticing I don't, I'm going to take this pillow and I'm going to set it back there. It's going to push me forward, but also my shoes are on. That's really not helpful. So getting your feet in contact with the floor, it's a good grounding tool. I always put another pillow in my lap because I have a old shoulder injury. And when my shoulder hangs for any length of time. And so you're setting yourself up really with significant supports. Why? Well, because in jhana training, we sit for longer periods of time. In fact, Lee himself, a teacher, again, that I studied with, said at least 50. We're not going to do that today, but the typical daily jhana training is 2 times a day, 50 minutes. Again, we as a community have done that. And again, saw and felt its effects. So we know that from personal experience that that's real. It's not from anybody's idea. And so we sit upright, dignified. See if you can just check into the body, make sure that nothing is impeding. So we just turn the mind gently. I'm going to lower my eyes now. Feet on the floor. Natural bend of the knee. If you're sitting on a bench or a cushion, of course, you know your center seat. And then we feel into the base of the body, the feet, the legs, and the hips, just seeing how they are. I'm needing just little minor adjustments to balance left to right, front to back. And really see if you can allow the upper body then to weight down into the base, just feeling how that feels. And taking a moment with your posture is also taking a moment with your aspiration, by the way. How is it so? Taking a moment in your posture nurtures your aspiration. And then just feeling the uprightness of the upper body. Making sure the shoulders are first drawn back gently over the hips, and then we let the shoulders naturally, gently, it's a very gentle curve forward, a little protection and refuge. Watch the head. It can be tipped a little up in the jhana trainings or fall a little down. And actually, we just tilt the chin ever so slightly, very gently toward chest, almost imperceptible, just so that the crown of the head can be pointing upward. In this practice, the hands are not floating freely, they are placed. And so they can be placed one inside the other in this way. They can be gently placed or rested in each other, but this is a container of concentration. And so we don't leave the hands in this practice floating out there. Draw them in gently, see what feels right for you. Let the eyes settle slightly towards the nose and downward. Let the cheeks, the jaw, and the mouth relax. In this practice, actually, we make sure the tongue is placed behind the teeth. And there's actually a little suction that kind of happens there, a little mini vacuum that actually allows the jaw to drop slightly, but keeping it in contact. This way, there's actually a little space sometimes between the lips. You don't purse or press the lips together. It's really held by the tongue. We relax the face, the throat, the shoulders, the arms. We feel the warmth of the hands. And then we recollect the other paramitas. the practice of deep generosity that we are bringing here, this moment. We're offering ourselves as completely as we can to this present moment. Dana Paramita. We are doing so with the commitment to cause no harm. That's the aspiration, no harm. And because we are human, because we are vulnerable, because we are conditioned, we work for at least harm. Working for least harm. And by our very stillness, by our very commitment, we are realizing Sila or Shila Paramita. And we commit ourselves with that discipline. And the discipline is from a deep place of knowing the nature of the unattended, unguarded mind. And so we offer that discipline. I will stay with this object, and the object here is going to be the breath spot. And no matter where the mind goes, I'll just simply, now with Shanti Paramita, patience beyond patience, return and continue. So with Dana Paramita, we begin. With Sila Paramita, we continue. With Shanti Paramita, we return again and again. With Virya Paramita, we rejoice. We get good energy, bliss, rapture. We have energy to continue. And we rest here in Dhyana Paramita, finding now the way from the whole body, breathing, into the breaths. And you'll notice often in my old training, I would rush right into somewhere in the belly. This is not the practice. The practice is to rest in the whole of the body breathing. Let's do it for a moment and just see what naturally comes. I'll ring the bell here. Jhana. May we offer this practice to all beings everywhere without exception, omitting none. Freeing us all, and see if you take that very aspiration and breathe it in, make bigger room. Breathe it into the whole body. And let's begin. Now you've heard these instructions before, and it often is spoken, something like this: inclining the mind towards the sense of the body, sitting here, breathing. That's the first instruction after the posture. Can you feel a vibrancy and aliveness? I am awake to this body and body sensations as a whole, not focusing on any, holding the container of awareness on this whole envelope of skin and all that plays within. And then you'll begin to notice natural centrifugal force. Actually, I find it amazing. It just happens over and over, moving away from the edges of the body to the interior, to the center. And that just naturally happens. It becomes effortful to hold the whole body. And so we soften that a little, letting the natural tendency to move inward into the body. And as the body is still, continuing inwards into the breathscape. Just see how it happens for you. Watching that the chin doesn't come forward, being watchful of the body that can move forward and just settle back by 10%, just a little bit. You're not in any way managing the breath. You're just making contact with the breathscape, seeing what's there. You'll notice movements, maybe other sensations, just a sense of orientation of that part of the body. We're still not jamming the mind on the breath. We're just holding this area, seeing what's here. There's a very relaxed attitude in the jhana. There is no striving, there is no trying to get to something, there is no result. There's just this being here. With commitment, with discipline, with infinite generosity and kindness, with patience beyond patience. We continue to simply arrive. This body, this breathscape. And we pay attention. And then you'll begin to consistently notice as the body is softened and still that you're breathing because you have a sense of movement, sensations related to the breath. And the mind in its curiosity naturally turns towards. And if you're straining, you begin to notice a little because it's not as easeful as we would want it to be, and we simply soften. In the jhana trainings, we pay equal attention to the in-breath and the out-breath. I always start with the out-breath because it's a little bit settling, a little centering. It invites the mind home to the body. And see where you notice that the breath ends the body. Following those breath movements downward by its nature, the body coming home to itself. Where do you notice? Where's the spot within the breathscape where the breath ends? Place the mind there. Enjoy the stillness. See, you can soften and relax the whole body mind around that point, not losing contact with it. And then notice how from that very place, the breath begins. Like being filled up with clear, beautiful water. We let the body begin once again to inflate right from that point. We're keeping the mind generally on that, just feeling the expanding. But we're not losing contact with that point. And then the body transitions once again to the out breath, returning to that point. We keep the contact with that breath spot on the in-breath, the transition, the out-breath, and the resting. This is where sila, paramita, becomes very, very important. It is easy for the mind to wander off. See if we can't activate, enliven that point or that breath spot, anapanya, in some way that allows the attention to consistently be placed there. It's a deep of light, of color, an expanding, contracting sun. It doesn't actually matter. We're trying to the mind over and the body as completely as we can to that anapanya, that breath spot. See, We're going to let the breath movements move around the point, and we're going to keep the mind as best we can in that one pointed focus. We're not following the breath, we are completely experiencing the breath. We're resting the mind in the Anapana. Everything else in movement is around that still. Remembering to feel it within the body, not just in the mind. You'll notice some challenges holding to the Anapana initially. That's no problem at all. Letting the body be soft and relaxed. Inviting that Shanti, Paramita, infinite patience. It's no problem. There's the felt sense of movement. We give ourselves a little window within the Anapana for the gentle movement. So be watchful of not trying to just stick the mind on the point, because then you'll be denying and avoiding the movement. We let the movement happen with the most interest being in that point at which the breath ends. That's where we assign a color, a light, and from which the breath begins. And if you notice that there's too much effort, which is actually a common challenge in the jhana practice, you get an object and you try to laser beam in a way that doesn't work. Create a little tiny more space and room just to relax into the point, into the Anapana. And it would be like coming home. There would be a exhilaration, a lovely energy, a resting place, a refuge, a shelter for the mind and body. Imagine it like coming home. Each time we touch into the breath spot, we smile, we relax. It's like taking our shoes off and lying on our most comfortable, most familiar bed, like an ah. Taking and letting yourself unfurl a little, stretching the neck. We can look off to either side, just remembering that we're safe, connected, connecting with whatever's here, looking around a little bit. And then moving into the body, maybe offering a special stretch. So, JHANA, PARAMITA. So, I'd like you to take a few minutes and see if you could find a few words, maybe descriptor words or a descriptive phrase that might describe your experience in this JHANA training. And of the experience itself, not of your opinions about it. Be watchful. Those are just perceptions. Yes, I liked this, I didn't like that. I'm asking for your direct experience while in the JHANA training.
Hello, this is Victor.
Hi, Victor. Good morning.
Morning. I had an experience which, of drifting away with the thoughts, but then coming back and to myself, and it's a sense of a self that is quite different. Like it was moving between dissolving in the thoughts and becoming again without any agenda, just sitting in a chair and then moving between these two states.
Yes, the one that was observing and the one being, you might say.
The one that is dissolving in the thoughts and kind of disappearing,
yes,
and then reappearing again and being.
Yes, that's very much a part of, in fact, in the JHANA teachings, they say that the body eventually falls away completely, this idea of self, particularly in the body, as if this is your view and this is the body, and the body just falls away, leaving awareness. You could say. And then in the early trainings, the body, and then the falling away, and then the sense of coming really home into true self, having not so much to do in the end with the body. The body, as we would continue these trainings, and maybe we'll try it another time with 50 minutes of silence, the body really just melts away. The identity with the body dissolves, leaving just, what someone might call radiant or witness or being or, something like that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I have not achieved that, but at least, yeah.
It isn't, we really stay away in the JHANA. It's one of the worst things we can do is believe there's somewhere else to be. And actually that is considered the #1 hindrance, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't try to achieve anything, just to
that's right. You're just
be able to see the thoughts and come down and come to
that's
that place.
why you were able to get there. Yeah. What happens, we notice for part of the mind as we do the training is, maybe next time. And actually we just recognize, get back here, do the practice again, do the practice again. Whoa, you know, interesting here, interesting. And yes, you must have done that well because you got where in fact you did. That's exactly right. The less efforting, meaning trying to get somewhere, actually becomes important to this practice. So thank you, Victor. It sounds to me like you are a natural jhana state person. Might be lovely to continue that with you. So here's some of the words that we're hearing. Calm, yes. And safe, yes. Alert, relaxed stillness, yes. Peaceful, grounded, ease, yes. Calm, softness with some distractions. Distractions aren't the problem here either. This is where Shanti, Paramita, sure, there were dogs barking outside of my window. We don't get rid of those either. We commit. We're simply committed to returning. The commitment, stillness, soft, safe, and peaceful, tranquility, and a recognition that most of my thought stream is completely unnecessary. Yeah, that's one of the things we come into. Actually, Anthony, the beauty is we actually choose to abandon it. It's not even as interesting as this amazing space, wholeness, being, you know, again, whatever the languaging for you. I want to be careful because we can start crystallizing concepts about ways it should be, which is not accurate. A wave coming in and connecting, a wave going and losing connection back into thoughts and distracting sensations over and over, and then waving after. Yes, that's exactly right. Away and back, again and again, forever again, is actually one of the poems written in relationship to jhana. Away and back, forever again. Full way, focus, and loosening focus. Just true. Sing and then noticing and returning. And it becomes really beautifully said, folks. Thank you. It becomes a kind of dance, and we're just in the dance, aren't we? We're not, it's not like, oh, I'm here. And did anybody notice what happened? Did when, oh, shucks, the dogs. You know, I'm trying to stay here, and now there's the dogs. Actually, these are called hindrances, and actually are directly come out of the jhana training, which is engaging, rather than allowing, simply returning and returning. We did that. What would you suppose would happen if we actually could find that place, walk around with that sense of collective centeredness, peacefulness, ease, manage that way? And that what we did before we did anything else is to invite and invoke that quality. What would you, how do you suppose your day would be different if you invited that? Because we're going to do that very thing. How might you suppose your day, your moment would be different? How was it different now? Less reactive, yeah. Right, minimum. Somebody would say, any of the words you said, more tranquil, more peaceful, more present, available, more awake. I would say any of the language. And Courtney just summed it up beautifully, didn't she, with less reactive. And so then could talk about what gets in the way. As we were beginning to talk about last week in DHYANA, PARAMITA, one of the things I asked is, what keeps you from the practice? And we came up with a list. We're going to check in today. Remember what we talked about? Commitment every day, unconditional for some amount of time. And what did you notice happened that kept you from the practice? I know we made the commitment formally on Saturdays. For Tuesday, folks, we were just going to see if we couldn't get to practice. What did you notice as you were working to make this commitment to yourself every day? If you want to come on and say hi and talk, you're more than welcome, or you can chat. Yes, noticing a certain kind of excuses. I'm trying to think of a fairly non-judgmental word, rationale, an explanation, using conditions around us as we often do, or what conditions within us. And Annika was saying, well, too tired, noticing the condition within, worried, a certain quality of mind. I can't practice because I'm too worried, right? But we have a way of explaining our movement away from ourselves pretty easily, don't we? This was here, that was there. The mind was like this, the body was like this. Worried states of mind are like this. Too much to do, we use the external, don't we? There was this so much to do. There was the dogs barking. And what would you say about that now, as we just practiced a little bit in the jhana training? What would you say about those explanations now? And we all have them. What might you offer yourself this week as you come up with an explanation for why you can't practice? It was like this, it was like that. Yeah, they are very creative. Yeah, they are very creative. In fact, they're never ending also. So if you're imagining that after some number of years that creativity stops, you'd be completely wrong. It actually continues endlessly, as all conditioning continues. So there's no end to the explanations we can offer ourselves. But what are you going to need to say to yourself this week? What are you going to change? How are you going to relate to that? Those explanations. Hi.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I've found that a technique that has worked with me, both with meditation and with, I'm thinking about so many things right now, practicing my instruments, surfing's a big one because it requires oftentimes in the winter getting in a wetsuit and then leaving your house and getting down to the beach and paddling out through a lot of waves and blah blah blah. It's really easy to come up with an excuse. I'm not gonna, no, like that's crazy. Why would I do that right now when I could just stay in bed, or when I could just sit cozied up on the couch reading a book or whatever, some really comfortable cozy thing. And the reason is that we always feel better after we've done it, and we always, it always contributes in some way to our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health and growth. And although those things can't really be quantified like immediately, I don't know, like for me, oftentimes with, you know, if I sit for 20 or 30 minutes, if I'm in the worst mood, and really feeling like mentally scattered and anxious and worried and just kind of imbalanced, it's I mean, you know, it's called a refuge for a reason, and it always, you know, like hits the reset button to some degree. Maybe not as much as I'd like it to, you know, and of course we'd all just like to be instantly like, oh, okay, it's now the best day of my life, but it doesn't really work that way. So I guess in sum, it's just, you know, if you can just push through that barrier, that initial barrier, which is always going to come up because, well, for whatever weird psychological reason that happens, it's always, I never regret it. You never regret it. Yeah.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you. I'm inspired. I'm inspired. Let's see. I saw a chat, may have even been in relationship to something Anthony said here. Here, Victor saying you could just recognize the explaining or the rationalizing or the excuse making. You could say to yourself, it's also very clear. So Anthony's saying we could remember the goodness, we could remember the contribution, we could call to mind the benefits, both to ourselves personally or to others. And it's always true. And he is completely correct. No matter how much you liked or didn't like the practice, the reality is, in fact, that. Victor's saying you could just recognize the explaining, the rationalizing, the excuse making. You could call it whatever you like. Again, I'd like us to be a bit friendly with ourselves in it. We could say noticing the 5 reasons. Sometimes I have fun with it, which is let me think of the 1,000 reasons I could come up with not to meditate right now. And of course, you could even make a game of it, but it is the same thing, which is recognizing the resistant quality of mind. Recognizing, and that is simply the thinking egoic mind talking. How could we name it? How could we recognize it? And with kindness, with a lot of compassion for the truth of suffering, also for ourselves, couldn't we? We could say, I'm going to take the good medicine anyway. I'm going to swallow the pill, even when it seems difficult or impossible or hard, because I know some deeper level, not certainly at a small mind thinking level, that this the best thing I can do. And it is the best thing I can do for myself and others. Shivam, good morning. She's written here, realizing the truth of the facticity of opposites, the reality of opposites. Discomfort flows in, comfort back and forth into discomfort and back again. Yes, the impermanence of, and we even say the emptiness of those things, that there's just a continual flow of wanting and not wanting, wishing, hoping, wanting, and not, coming up with reasons not, over and over again. I try not to grab into comfort or discomfort. That's right. We're still in the witness realm, which does not recognizes those, but does not fall in. But everything keeps flowing. Yes, exactly. Everything impermanent in the way that it's often spoken about. Adrian, the commitment was easy this week because of upset over a sick pet. I needed to quiet. Yes, sometimes we have distress, and the distress is so sufficient that it jangles us in a way that we go, wait a minute, I need the refuge. I need the support. I need the stability. I need the quiet instead. And often is it written, in moments of a storm, if we have safe harbor, we can find our way back to it. What's also interesting about this that Adrian is saying is that if we do not have safe harbor, have not practiced, it will sometimes be impossible to find our way home, because the mind's distress will gather us up and throw us around the room in a way, which is why one of the primary beautiful reasons for daily practice, that we remember the refuge, as Anthony said, as Adrian is also speaking, and can find our way there in moments of distress, that we have a path, a way, a process that we can count on, even in times of difficulty. And that's exactly right. Thank you, Adrian. Andy, my short-term pleasant distractions obscure my desire for the longer-term happiness. That's right. My resistance to a deeper change also fosters the excuses for not sitting. That's right. We have to be with everything is actually, I think, to some extent what Andy's talking about. When we sit, especially for any length of time then, the truth is we confront then all that has obscured us. We have to make contact with Maras, with the hindrances, with the distressed objects, because in fact they have kept us from our truest selves. But making contact with that can be quite distressing. Being in distress, being in suffering is not our favorite thing. And what we often do is distract. What we often do is shut down. What we often do is disconnect as a way of getting out of that, rather than this practice. And I have to say it's not the easiest for this, is actually that we soften, still, settle, and allow those things, as Shivam said, to appear and actually see their impermanent, false, insubstantial nature, empty nature. But that takes a lot of stillness, folks, doesn't it? That takes a lot of stillness. And if we're not practicing every day, we will cultivate those qualities sufficiently. And they're into the jhana training so that we can rest, no matter what's the winds are blowing in our worldly frames. We can rest in something that is not appearing and disappearing, but in fact is always available, ever present, imperturbable, unshakable, always available. But we've got to learn how to put the boat in the dock. And then we put the boat in the dock, and a little windy in the dock. And there's people on the dock, and we put the boat in the dock. And then the dogs are barking, and we still put the boat in the dock. And it's raining and storming, and we still put the boat in the dock. So that even amazingly, of it is, even when there isn't a dock, we know how to put the boat in. There's no even more structure, and we still know the way. And this is a part of the essential training, every day training. Let me read some other things here. Annika, same as Andy, it helps to form a habit. That's that putting the boat in the dock every day, no matter, same place, same time, same ritual over and over. We need this at the beginning. In the end, remember, we know how to put the boat in the dock even without the dock. But at the beginning, all these conducive conditions are seen as essential supports. And yes, offer them to yourself. Same time, same place, no matter wetness, I'm going to do it. I've got my favorite pillow. We even make it a little bit comfortable for ourselves. We get our favorite seats. We get the room that we enjoy. I love meditating down here. I get to look out at the garden, right? And these are considered conducive conditions that can support us, especially in times when things become more difficult. Waking Up app, the Calm app, the Headspace app, there's a lot of supports out there. Yes, there is a lot of evidence for the power of habit. The jhanas say not only is there something in the habit itself, that there is a polyvagal response. And we won't talk about Stephen Porges' work right now, but that there really is something that happens we'll call it a vibrational embodiment for lack of something better. The polyvagal nerves bundle is a real thing, and that it, in fact, will seek that steadiness, that calm, and it's beautiful practice. I think we're all saying it. We know it's good for us. We know we benefit. We know it actually feels better, right? Here's a statement. This is what I came here to do. Yep. That's what I'm in this life to do, isn't it? I'm in this life to be of benefit. I'm in this life to be whole. I'm in this life to be most loving, most present. Yes. Beautiful. What else? We're giving each other our good tips. What else would you have to say to each other to support you here? Every day for some amount of time, we're in the trenches now. Yeah, doing it first is often helpful. It's not always possible, but yes, it's just a way of really, the way it's talked about in the suttas is tuning an instrument, a lute, in fact, and that the lute starts by virtue of the evening, right, not being perfectly tuned. And so we tighten a little, we loosen a little, we really get ourselves in right inward measure, which is one of the things that meditation actually means, right inward measure, so that whatever else we confront in the day, we have that playable instrument of our own being available to us. So it's often done in the morning, but not everybody, for a variety of reasons, can do that. Yep, feed the kitties. Adrienne has kitties too, Seth. She does empathize and understand. The first thing, the kitties are talking first thing. Often children can do that as well. Often our telephones, our devices talk to us, don't they? Like, come over here, get to me. Be watchful of these things. Make sure they're not just distractions and habits. Where it comes to animals and children, often the truth is attending to them first can be skillful. For some people, looking at the phone to make sure there's not an emergency, I have to tell you honestly, I find that for a lot of people, they get caught in that. For others, they can literally just use it as let me check to make sure everyone's okay, put it down, and then get to the practice. I promised myself another cup of tea. Yes, we can say after the sitting, I'm going to make myself my delicious tea. Yes, we can offer those kind of supports to ourselves. We're really, that's called pairing. And in addition to the positive experience you have now internally, we can pair it with that idea of a lovely cup of tea. And in the pairing, we can grow that experience stronger and actually can encourage us to get to it. To believe in our own capacities and strength. Yes, Victor. To be able to lead the mind, to direct the mind. The sutta says to guard the mind instead of leaving it unattended. Why? Well, because we know that which is unattended drifts off, goes to suffering, actually. And so can we gather, collect, and center the mind and into its capacity for awakening so that we don't leave it unattended like a lost child. And that's exactly right. That inspires me, I have to tell you, every day. That thought, that what better thing could I do than this for myself and the world? And I actually know that it's true. Lovely. Thank you, everyone. These were helpful, inspiring. We are committing ourselves to this everyday practice, no matter what. As I said, that John has often said, as your life depends on it, because it does. Why don't we set for a few more minutes? I think our talking is complete. Feels like we're in a good spot. Let's sit for a few more minutes, gathering ourselves again. If you're having trouble getting to practice every day, please write me. Let me know so that we can figure out what's the obstacle for you. Number one obstacle, I have to tell you honestly, is intention. The number one obstacle is lack of intention, letting life and its conditions lead us. And what did Victor say there at the end? So that I am not led adrift, but can see clearly the greatest priorities and commit ourselves wholly then, mind, body, and heart to that endeavor. Let's sit for just a few more minutes. I can't think of a better thing to do. And so with the generosity of the whole awakened heart mind, being drenched in bodhicitta, we establish ourselves upright and dignified. Softened, relaxed. Finding the way to the body. From the body to the breastscape in its time. And from the breathscape to the still point, to the anapana. To the portal, to infinite luminous awareness. Well, where everything else simply becomes a this and that, a coming and a going. Not me, not mine, not I. And we rest the attention again and again in the ah. May we gather the bodhisattva ideal. To practice not only for oneself, but towards the end of suffering for all beings. May we begin with ourselves in this daily practice, knowing, deeply knowing the truth of its benefit. May you see yourself as worthy, deserving. May you care for yourself enough to offer this May we all have happiness in the causes for true and abiding happiness. The long view. May we be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May we take great joy and rejoice at our good fortune and wish for others. And not only wish them, but act so as to make it so. May we rest in fullness and silence, the two arms of equanimity, free from all worldly winds. Safe, protected, sheltered. May we guard the heart and mind each day, beginning like this. And may this very practice contribute. So be it. We will be working on Prajna Paramita, which is really the hologram collective of all the paramitas. And if you need some help with the chapter, I sent it out, but if you don't have it and want to take a look, we'll be looking at it next week, next Tuesday. More importantly for me, if you are not able to get to some amount of practice each day this week, I want you to let me know so that we can work on what you've got in the way that we need to work on so that you can offer this refuge, essential refuge to Prajna Paramita, to yourself. Please let me know. I look forward to being able to support you. Thank you for being here always. Much love to all of you. Have a beautiful day today. I'll see you on Saturday. Blessings to everyone. Thank you.